Hello everyone. I'm going to discuss why developmental guidelines and developmental checklists are used in different programs for different things. So this first guideline that I have up is the infant, toddler, and 3-year-old early learning guidelines. The two guidelines that I'm going to present in here are Texas specific, meaning that these were created by the Texas Department of Education. Since I'm located in Texas, I'm choosing these guidelines. Other states might have different guidelines, which are fine to use. You want to try to use ones that are state created or maybe created by accreditation agencies, something that you know has rigor and that has value. But for these guidelines, for instance, this infant, toddler, and 3-year-old one, they have different developmental expectations broken up into different developmental domains. And so this one here, for instance, is social and emotional development. Another one here is language development. Down here you can see there's cognitive development. So they have different developmental domains of what you can expect children to be doing at those different times. So if we go to one, let's just go to page 33 here. They provide you with a little introduction onto what would be included within this developmental domain. I'm going to scroll down. And then eventually you're going to get to where it kind of breaks it up by ages, what you can expect. So for 0 to 8 months, these are things that you might see infants do. And as a caregiver, a teacher, as a parent, these are things you can do to help them develop these skills. And you would keep going down. And it goes up to 48 months because this is infant, toddler, and it goes from infants and toddlers. It goes up to 3 years old. So yes, this one says here for 48 months, but eventually you're going to want to use another guideline that focuses on 48 months and higher, so those older ages of children. You wouldn't want to use this if you had a child who was 5 years old or even 49 months old, perhaps. It really is going to depend on if the child is typically developing, if they're advanced in any areas, that kind of thing. Another guideline that builds upon this one here is the Texas PreK Guidelines. Their domains are broken up as such here: social and emotional, language and communication, emergent reading, emergent literacy, writing, mathematics, science, and then you can scroll down and there's more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just jump to one of those so we can see how they have the information arranged. And so I chose here the language and communication domain. You can see here where it says by around 48 months of age, what children would be doing. If you scroll, you'll see that's how these different skills are labeled. And then here they say by the end of pre-kindergarten. So remember, this is still before children have even entered kindergarten. These are some of the skills you can expect. Examples of child behaviors and examples of instructional strategies that could be used. So these guidelines could be really helpful if you notice that a child is having trouble in a certain area. You could come and find the skill. Of course, you can always do the Control F, and then you can type in the keyword, and that's how you can search through this a little bit quicker. But you can find a skill that you feel a child might be having a little trouble in, and you want to create an activity to help them, because it gives you some instructional strategies here and some ideas on what you can do. So these guidelines are important to use to really understand what skills do we expect of children at different ages. So for instance, if you have a 2-year-old, are you going to expect them to be able to jump with both feet off of the floor at the same time? Maybe not, but a 5-year-old, you would. And so those kind of things we need to consider. Those are very helpful when we're trying to decide, is a child developmentally on track, or is there certain areas that we might need to focus on? So these are overall guidelines. Walking around with these guidelines is very hard to do. This one, for instance, is 139 pages. This one here is 94. So what we can use then are checklists, developmental checklists. These are usually a little more condensed, and they kind of give us things we can check off. Yes, we've seen the child do this. Yes, we've seen them do that kind of thing. So for instance here, this is a checklist created by Children's Learning Institute. This is an organization in Houston. They do a lot with the Texas Department of Education, so that's why I chose theirs to focus on. Different programs have different checklists. And so you want to make sure that it is a research-based, it is one that's not just, oh, well, my child did this at 2 years old, so this is what children should do at 2 years old. And so with this checklist here, you can see the different skills. There's health and motor, so that could be tied to perhaps physical development, language and literacy, and then when you scroll down, there's social and emotional development, and then cognitive development. This one also gives you some red flags of things you might notice that might cause you to kind of question whether or not the child might need extra help in certain areas, or if you need to perhaps talk to your pediatrician or family care doctor. If we just go back up here, it just talks again, like I said, these are checklist things you can mark off. Yes, they understand the words in, on, and under, or yes, they can name body parts. One thing I always suggest is when you're using checklists, that you make notes. So name body parts. That's good general information, but what body parts can the child name? Can they name their arm? Can they name their nose? You know, those kind of things. So you don't necessarily always want to just mark off and have no other information there. You're going to want to have other information that can help you when you're trying to give a full picture of what the child is able to do. Another checklist here is created by the Center for Disease Control. Not going to lie, always thought it just dealt with diseases and that kind of thing, but they do actually talk about ways to help children develop and grow. And so this checklist here is for babies at 2 months, but they do go down. Let me just skip to, let's see, page 18. Let's see what takes us to. This is for a 4-year-old. So I'm going to go up one page so we can see the first page of the 4-year-old. And so again, this is what do most children do at this age. So here it is for 4 years old. It is broken up to social and emotional, language and communication, cognitive, which is learning, thinking, problem solving. If you go to the PreK Guidelines, cognitive is broken up into science, social studies, math. Those are all cognitive skills. And if you look here, you can see how that relates. Being able to name some colors and some numbers would be a math skill. It could possibly be a science skill also. Understanding time, that would be a math skill, or perhaps a social studies skill, depending on what aspect of being able to identify time you're looking at. So all of these go hand in hand together, the developmental milestones and the checklist. And so you're going to use this information for different purposes, whether it's at a job and you have these checklists perhaps inside a portfolio. Children's portfolios I talk about in another video, or if you're using this information to understand that, okay, 3-year-olds should be doing this, and this is the next skill that they would need to know, so I'm going to plan an activity that will help them get to that next developmental level. We want to remember that children learn through play, and so if we know where they currently are developmentally and what's the next step, we can help plan better play activities for them to learn, to explore, and to continue to develop. Have a great day.